going to introduce Brenda Ring Wood, the Professor of Change, host of the Becoming the Best You talk show. And she has a movement called Becoming the Best You, where she's traveling around the United States, helping lots of people become a better version of themselves. And I can say there's numerous people in this room who have gone to her conferences and have become better people. We've all grown in one way or another since we have met you, Bryn, and we're very grateful for that. So come up here and share with us what courage under fire means for you.
Thanks, everybody. Well, first off, I had to have the courage to wear orange shoes on stage because somebody said the dress code was orange. And in case you guys haven't noticed, I'm a white girl wearing orange shoes. That takes courage. It takes courage because it's outside of my comfort zone. Yes, my name is Brenda Ringwood. I go by Bren, and I am the Professor of Change. I like to teach people that they can change, that they have a value, they have a purpose, they have a worth, and they need to own it. How many of you guys own your actions? Because until you own your actions, you cannot change. I had to own my actions. I had to own my mistakes. But most importantly, I had to own my choices. How many guys make good choices? Every day. We try to. But sometimes we think that a good choice is also the right choice. But is it? So do you know that courage, the definition of courage, means to overcome, to have the ability to conquer your fear? What scares you? There was a time that I scared myself. And then I got to thinking, man, you got it made. Look at the timeline that you're living in right now. And I started thinking, man, if I'd have been born in the 1800s as a female, no rights, no education, no value. So I started thinking, man, who in the 1800s had courage? We always hear the big names. Has anybody ever heard of Nellie Bly? She is the person behind investigative journalism. And she was a female in the late 1800s. Nobody took her seriously. In fact, she was higher educated than her brothers, and she couldn't get a job because she was female. She was an awesome writer. She had talent, but nobody could see it because she was a girl. She said, I'm more than my sex. I am more than who they see me to be. So she finally gets to an editor in New York City, and he says, I kind of see some talent in you. I'm going to give you a challenge, and if you can pass that challenge, quickly, I'm going to give you a job. Well, that's a huge thing for a female in the 1800s to be a reporter for a New York City paper. You got to get into the insane asylum, and you're going to go in there undercover. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Now, do you guys understand what happened to females in insane asylums in the 1800s? If you cried too much, they thought you had hysteria, and they would put you away. If you couldn't speak English or communicate well, you got put in the asylum because you had hysteria. So she said, challenge accepted. She goes home, she changes her clothes, she puts on something old, something stained, and she walks into the homeless shelter. I'm paraphrasing. I'm not sure what they were called back then. The people there say this lady needs some help because she feigned madness. She pretended to be mad. That got her the appointment with the doctor that got her admitted into the insane asylum. While she was there, she found out that people were treated very poorly. They weren't fed properly. They were cold. It's cold in New York in the winter. Very thin blankets. They weren't given the proper clothing. They weren't given the proper medical care. She knew she was getting out. These people were not. The only reason why she was getting out is because somebody outside was coming to her rescue, and she knew this. So then she started to just be herself. She could stop acting mad. The nurses were mistreating people. They were choking them, they were hitting them, they were drugging them so they would sleep at night, putting them away. The more that she pretended to act mad, the more that she fit in. And the more that she became sane and pretended that she now got better, they wanted to keep her. Because now they thought, well, she really is insane. Look at the personality disorder. She got out. She was able to give that institution $1 million because of her journalism. $1 million is a lot of money today. Can you imagine what that was in the 1800s? She was able to get them the funding that they needed. She got the doctors and nurses kicked out of there and brought in the people who could help those women in the 1800s. That is courage. The reason why I bring up that story, we all have that story. We all have it. How many of you guys have stood up for that person that's being bullied? How many of you guys have taken someone's side that you knew was the right way to go? How many of you have made the choice to be better? How many of you made the choice to own your responsibility? Like Randy said, own the responsibility of your actions. Own the responsibility of your choices. How many of you guys get embarrassed sometimes when you do that? Because it means you have to admit, hey, I was wrong. Hey, I used to be that person. My address has changed. That was my past. I don't live there anymore. But see, there's one other thing that you have to understand with courage. It's a mindset. It is a mindset. It is a conscious decision to choose the right thing. A lot of us think courage, I went out and fought in a war. My dad fought in Vietnam. That was probably pretty courageous. You want to talk about under fire, literally. But he was thrown into a situation that he had to survive in. He didn't have a choice. So what is it better when you have the choice to make the change, when you have the choice to do better, when you have the change in your heart to become the friend, to become the mother that you should be, to become the daughter that you should be? How many of you guys make that choice? That's why I like to talk about change. Change is a choice. And each of you have it within you to become a better person. You have it within you to become the person that you want to be. But see, you cut yourself short because you don't see yourself as that person. Why do you not see yourself as that person? You know, a lot of you know my story and some of you don't, but I did 4 years in the federal prison for 4 years. It's the best thing that ever happened to me because I came face to face with myself. That's why I resonate with Nellie, because her first paragraph says, I got to know myself. How many of you know yourself? I had to take the courage to step up on the stage, knowing that there's probably somebody out in that audience that's going to stand up and say, you know what she did? I don't live there anymore. You don't live there anymore. And I'm not going back there anymore. But Randy is right. You do need to go home. And home is the foundation. Home is where you make it, and home is where you want to be. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you don't have a value, that your past can stop you, that your past is going to dictate your future. Because if you let it, it will. If you stand up and you take the courage, you too can be the change in your life that might change his life, that might change her life. But I'm asking you, do you have the courage to change yourself? Come on, everybody stand up. I want you to raise that hand. I have a value.
I have a value.
I have a worth.
I have a worth.
And I'm going to make the choice to stand up and let my voice be heard.
And I'm going to make the choice to stand up and let my voice be heard.
You all have a voice. You can sit down. You all have a voice. You all have a purpose. We are uniquely designed. You don't have to accept what others' opinions are of you. You have to accept yourself, take responsibility for yourself, and make the actions to change. That's all I got, guys. Have a great evening.